An area small business waiting on a government loan is told it might have to wait a while.
Top world leaders tackle the coronavirus at the G7 summit. I'm Skyler Henry with the latest on the Biden administration's global vaccine distribution strategy.
Researchers study the effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccines on cancer patients.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Potentially heavy rain is making its way into the 4 states this evening. This is KOAM News at 5. Let's check first with Chief Meteorologist Doug Heddy.
All right, Dow, we've been watching a cluster of showers and thunderstorms to our north throughout the afternoon hours, but they are dropping off toward the south and to the east. You can see severe thunderstorm watches across a good portion of Kansas, all of Missouri until 10 p.m. as we roll through the evening hours. This is mainly a hail and wind threat, not much of a tornado threat. It's never gone, but our tornado threat's pretty low. But you can see this cluster. It drops through Kansas City and then it kind of really splits apart over the past couple hours. So these are going to stay northeast of the region. The ones we need to keep our eyes on is this big cluster, which is dropping into our northern county. So Garnett over toward Mound City, just to the north of Iola. These are sliding off toward the south and to the east. I do expect this to expand a bit as we go through the evening hours, so that's something we want to watch as well as these storms continue to drop through. But an elevated risk for severe weather. Over about the next 6 hours, again, I'm going to keep the tornado threat low. We're going to elevate hail and wind, and of course, underneath these storms, you'll get some very heavy amounts of rain as well. Of course, I'm going to break down this entire system and the weekend here in just a bit.
All right, we'll see you then. Thanks, Doug. Restaurant owner in Chanute, Kansas wants to warn other owners in the food service industry about his frustration with the Small Business Administration. Greg Barnhart and his wife are the owners of the Grain Bin Restaurant in Chanute. And they had to shut down for 110 days during 2020 because of the pandemic. They're up and running again now and had success dealing with the Paycheck Protection Program, but say they haven't been able to receive a grant from the SBA's Restaurant Relief Fund after initially being approved. Greg Barnhart also says he's been told by the SBA that a federal lawsuit is holding up his grant.
You know, I'm just more worried about the businesses out there from another state or wherever that's just reopening. They may be sitting here waiting on this money the same reason I am, and they're getting nothing. So somebody needs to figure it out.
You're going to learn more about that Small Business Administration lawsuit tonight at 6. Some bees today made the Lamar, Missouri Walmart parking lot their temporary territory. Take a look. The bees began swarming and covering cars, including this Lamar Police Department patrol car. Bees are being blamed for a crash in the parking lot, though no one was injured. Lamar police called in a beekeeper to safely remove them.
A hive that swarms that has a queen in it normally is very docile, and they're on a mission, and their main mission is to get to that new place in order to create a new hive.
Beekeeper thinks they escaped from a semi-truck that was carrying them, then went searching for food and got lost. President Biden is attending his first G7 summit in Cornwall, England, where the main topic of discussion continues to be the coronavirus pandemic. The group is made up of 7 of the world's top democracies: the U.S., the U.K., Canada, Italy, France, Germany, and Japan. Skyler Henry reports from the White House.
G7 leaders and their spouses wrapped day 1 of this year's summit with a dinner hosted by the British royal family.
The global health emergency has shown us what a truly borderless crisis looks like.
The 3-day meeting marks the first time the leaders of these countries have seen each other face to face since before the pandemic, which was at the top of their agenda.
We need to make sure that as we recover, we level up across our societies and we build back better.
Demonstrators set afloat blimps depicting President Biden and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson in a plea to get more COVID vaccines to poor nations. The G7 pledged to donate more than 1 billion vaccines by the end of next summer, with half coming from the U.S. The group will also discuss climate change and the post-pandemic economic recovery.
There is the potential to generate many, many millions of high-wage, high-skill jobs.
The president is also preparing for next week's NATO summit, where he'll continue to shore up U.S. alliances before Wednesday's sit-down with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Switzerland.
Mr. President, what's your message to Putin?
So you have to deliver it.
While the president attended meetings, First Lady Jill Biden visited a local school with the Duchess of Cambridge.
The children who were so inspiring and so well behaved.
On Sunday, President Biden will meet one-on-one with Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. The White House notes the two met once before in 1982, when Mr. Biden was a U.S. Senator. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the White House.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson invited guest representatives from Australia, India, and South Korea to this year's G7 summit. European Union officials are also attending. The Justice Department has asked for an international investigation after revelations that former President Trump's administration seized phone data from House Democrats in 2018 as part of a leaks investigation. The request came after Senate Democratic leaders demanded that Trump-era attorneys General Bill Barr and Jeff Sessions testify about the extraordinary seizures. Democrats call the revelations harrowing and evidence of a gross abuse of power. 5 wildfires are burning in Utah, and the governor there has declared a drought emergency. The entire state of Utah is experiencing drought, more than 90% in an extreme category. The Great Salt Lake is expected to reach its lowest point in modern history this year. Utah feeds the Colorado River, and less water in the state means trouble downstream, impacting 40 million people in 7 states. Still ahead, double-checking your credit report.
Are there mistakes on your credit report? I'm Danya Backus with why a new study says you should make sure your information is correct.
But first, in Health Watch, researchers look into the effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccines on cancer patients and survivors. What's the solution for people feeling the brain drain at work or school? Well, the short answer might be more short breaks for better learning. A team of scientists at the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke says taking short breaks when you're learning new skills, such as at work, helps the brain in retention. The researchers studied brainwave activities of volunteers and learning activities and found that learning gains happen during the short rest periods, not during the actual activity. The brain compresses and consolidates those practice memories into neural replay, increasing learning abilities. A lot of medical groups recommend cancer patients and survivors receive the COVID-19 vaccine, but there are some questions about the effectiveness of the shot for this group. Researchers in Ohio are launching a study to understand how the vaccine impacts those patients. Reporter Laura Podesta has more.
Dave Hill knows about quarantining. Even before the pandemic, the 63-year-old had to isolate after receiving intense chemotherapy and then a stem cell transplant for lymphoma.
I've been doing this since mid-2018, and I said, so if you think you're stir crazy, you should, be in my shoes.
The stakes got even higher when COVID hit.
There was an extremely high anxiety about any kind of infection. I just had to continue to be very diligent.
Cancer treatment can affect the immune system, which can leave patients susceptible to infections. Experts recommend most cancer patients and survivors receive the COVID-19 vaccine, but there are some unknowns.
There are some patients where we're not measuring as good an antibody response as what we would like to see. However, we have no idea whether or not that's still sufficiently protective. But there may very well be a subset of patients who need to get boosters more often. This is what we're trying to figure out.
Dr. Peter Shields is leading a study at the Ohio State University Comprehensive Cancer Center, enrolling vaccinated patients with and without cancer. Participants provide weekly saliva samples to test for COVID and blood samples to measure immune response.
I hope it protects me, and I hope it protects everybody else.
Dave is taking part in the research.
This is one thing that came in that allowed me to participate and pay back to those people who helped me and who are helping others.
He's fully vaccinated, in remission, and grateful. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
There are more than 17 million cancer survivors in the U.S. Adding to the list of symptoms from COVID-19, researchers now believe the virus can cause both hearing and balance disorders. A study at the University of Texas also finds stress from the pandemic may aggravate symptoms of tinnitus, which causes ringing in the ears. A different threat to audio health may be coming from your earbuds. Studies presented to the Acoustical Society of America find that children, teenagers, and young adults are listening to music through headphones at unhealthy volumes for many hours a day. Researchers are warning of an epidemic of hearing loss when today's younger generations reach midlife. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, after being canceled last year because of the pandemic, the Pittsburgh Business Expo is back.
Thunderstorms working into the area with a severe threat through the evening hours. I'm going to have those details coming up.
The KOAM Health.
Well, it's turned out to be another very hot, humid day across the region. The humidity has been super high over the past couple days, and temperatures, most of us made it up into lower 90s for highs. But we're right at the very end of severe weather season. We're kind of more into the severe weather that we see usually in the summer months, June and July, which are a lot of these big clusters of storms. These systems usually aren't big tornado makers, but they are big hail and also wind makers. But you can see severe thunderstorm watch southwestern Missouri and then into southeastern parts of Kansas. Couple clusters we've been watching. These have been driving kind of toward Kansas City, through the city during the daytime hours, and they've kind of split off. We have our first batch, which is now diving into the Lake of the Ozarks in central parts of Missouri, but at the same time it puts out these little fronts. It pushes cold air out. So along these little fronts, we get new clusters which develop, and that's what we're seeing back into southeastern Kansas. So this is Linn County, Anderson County, very northern fringes of our viewing area. But this big storm, I mean, it has some monster hail in it, and it extends from Mound Valley, Garnett, and then back toward Burlington. So this is just north of Iola. Fort Scott would be right there, but we want to watch this cluster as it drops south and east and then continues to back build and develop back toward the south and to the west. So you can see Yates Center here. So the areas that have concern for at least strong to severe thunderstorms over the next hour is Yates Center, Iola, Fort Scott, and then we'll see what this cluster really wants to do. But you can see some monster hail within this storm, at least golf ball size, if not tennis ball size. So that's going to really be the main threats tonight. So this cluster, central Missouri, this cluster will probably kind of ride into southeastern Kansas, kind of back build, probably south central parts of Kansas. And we're just going to have to kind of see how it all comes together over the next couple hours, because as these storms evolve, they like to change their structure just a little bit. But we do have the severe threat, at least an elevated threat across the region, really from now until about 10 o'clock tonight. I'm going to keep the tornado threat low, which is good news, but the hail and the wind threat and the rain threat definitely are going to be on the high side as we go through the evening hours. So scattered showers, thunderstorms again, I think at least 10 o'clock. After midnight, we'll still get some additional scattered thunderstorms, but our severe threat will start to drop, and then we'll start to look a little bit better by the time we head into the morning hours for us tomorrow. Temperatures will drop back right around 70 degrees for us a little bit later on tonight. Look at our temps now. Most of us upper 80s to near 90. So it's definitely hot across the region. It's very humid, and there we go. System locked up. We've had that issue for quite some time, but yeah, we're going to continue to watch these showers and thunderstorms as we go through the evening hours. It's going to stay very hot tomorrow, 89, 90 on Sunday. The humidity is going to be a little bit lower, and of course, we'll look at the 7-day here after I reboot.
I think the graphic is predicting darkness for tonight, which seems pretty likely.
Yeah, I'd say close to 100%.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doug. Coming up, a new report shows many Americans have errors on their credit report. First, though, we honor a local World War II veteran. Max Decker served in the U.S. Army in 1944 and 1945. The Buffalo, Kansas native was stationed in Germany, and we salute Private First Class Max Decker, a 4-state hero.
O'clock p.m. Loosen your tie up.
Top in Consumer Watch, the Expo is back in business. Pittsburgh's 2-day Business Expo kicked off today at Meadowbrook Mall. This year's theme is Out of This World. The Expo was canceled last year because of the pandemic, but this year it's fully booked with businesses in a wide range of industries excited about the prospect of returning to normal.
It's always great when we can bring an event to the community. It gets people out. People are ready to be out. It's really super hot outside, so come and cool off here at the mall. There's all kinds of specials. The restaurants are open. We're back in business. You know, we're ready to showcase everything that Pittsburgh and the surrounding community has to offer.
Pittsburgh Business Expo runs until 7 tonight and from 10 to 3 tomorrow. A new Consumer Reports investigation finds more than a third of consumers found errors on their credit reports. Reporter Danya Bacchus has more on why you should monitor your credit.
Robert Johnson checks his credit report up to 4 times a year.
I have a very common name, Robert Johnson. There's so many people with that name. So there has been instances where there have been errors on my credit report.
And he's not alone in finding mistakes. According to a Consumer Reports investigation, out of nearly 6,000 people surveyed, more than 1/3 had at least one error on their credit report.
This is stuff relating to where they have a credit card or how much in debt they are to a certain institution.
SYED EJAZ is a policy analyst at Consumer Reports.
These are errors that, if they're not fixed, they can impact a consumer's credit score.
And that impact could affect other areas of the consumer's financial life.
We all know that credit reports are used to determine the interest rate that a person can get on a loan. Credit reports are also referenced in quite a few employment decisions. They can keep people from getting a job.
29% of those surveyed found personal information errors, such as a wrong name or address, which EJAZ says can also cause problems.
They won't be able to access their credit report if they can't get through those security verification questions.
Complaints to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau about credit reporting errors have more than doubled since 2019. Johnson knows disputing those mistakes is not easy.
What was the process like in trying to get those things removed?
I had to contact the credit bureaus as well as write letters. It's very tedious.
But he also says it's worth the hassle to know his credit report is in good standing. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Consumer Reports is calling on the credit bureaus to ensure credit reports are accurate and easy to obtain. During the pandemic, credit bureaus are allowing consumers to get a free copy of their credit report every week through April 20th of 2022, not just annually as they had in the past. The U.S. budget deficit hit an all-time high, passing $2 trillion in May. The bleeding on the nation's balance sheet comes amid a flow of stimulus to help the economy bounce back from pandemic-caused losses. Lawmakers also continue to negotiate what will be a high-cost infrastructure bill. Government spending is on track to reach 2020's record deficit of more than $3 trillion. As Americans are emerging from lockdown and hitting the skies in record numbers, TSA says it does not have enough workers to handle the long-awaited travel boom. The agency is asking workers to volunteer to help monitor checkpoints. The hope is to hire 3,000 more workers by the end of the summer. Some airlines have also asked workers to volunteer hours to help handle the travel surge. A final check of the forecast next.
News this Saturday only at Ashley Home Store.
The CBS Evening News is next. Then on KOAM News at 6, the Oklahoma Employment Security Commission expands eligibility for cash incentives for people returning to the workforce. Plus, we're going to hear more about the wait for government loans some small businesses are facing and how a local basketball minor league is helping players get professional deals. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Once again, Doug, some rain moving into the 4 states.
Yeah, we got showers, we got thunderstorms, which are working into the area. In fact, if we can get our Max 2 popped up, I'll show you what the radar is looking like. Pretty big cluster moving into Anderson County, Linn County, Kansas, so the northern fringe of the viewing area. But these are going to continue to sink south, and these could really pack a punch. Main threat here is going to be hail and wind, really sticking around for the next 5 or 6 hours through the overnight hours. And then a few random showers tomorrow morning. Then I think the rest of the day is going to be good. 89 for a high, 90 on Sunday. Thunderstorm chances return again most of next week.
Thanks, Doug, and thank you for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. Of course, we're going to be right back here at 6. In the meantime, let's take care of ourselves and each other and make it a great evening.